Big thank you to Ewheels and to Marty Baki for loaning me this pre-production Apex from Nosfet. I just changed out the linkage last night to the hardened version. If your batch 1 doesn't come with this hardened linkage, definitely reach out to your dealer. Make sure that you get the hardened linkage installed as soon as possible. We had a situation at Fullerton Loop where one of the screws backed out of this lower shock piece, and then the entire, I think that because that happened, basically instead of it being 50-50 on each side of the teeth, this side was doing almost nothing because the screw was basically not in, and this side was doing 100% of the work. So it busted all the teeth off on this side, and then it bent and warped everything on the other side. But this is a completely different linkage. Their video was very good. Basically, your instruction manual for this wheel is videos that teach you exactly what to do with torque specs. Very detailed. You're not missing any steps in those videos. So that's really good, better than a detailed manual. So far, there's one thing in the manual we found. The shock in the manual, it states that you can pump it up to 300 psi, or it suggests 300 psi for an up to 80 kilogram rider. And the D&M shock manual states to only go up to 250 psi to not damage the shock. I've heard that they are going to update the manual to say that the shock can take 275. So I've put 270 in it today because I like very aggressive settings. I've got a video, slow motion of the links, shock, suspension, me compressing it, versus this wheel with 270 psi in the fully extended travel position. I like to have my pads pretty low. You can see I just moved this fairing plate down until it hit these screws, and that helped me with getting my pads where I wanted them to be. I also added, I'm not going to take this pad off right now because I've got it all set, but I do have a picture that I'll post on the screen. I added this little piece down there to kind of give me more real estate for my heel pad to be placed on. One more thing before we get started. They state this is 150 millimeters of travel. I can't figure out how to make it actually do that. I have it in the most extended suspension position. I've used calipers. We know that if you don't have this fairing plate on, there is a tube, basically, the slider down below. And after riding with Roger the other day and watching it, you know, basically use all of the travel, there was a good dust ring forming up on top there. So we know about how much it's not going all the way to the top. So you can't just measure, you know, from the bottom to the top. There is a section right there that's not being used at all, which begs the question, if it's not bottoming out there, what in this wheel stops it from going compressing, basically? Is it just the shock? Does everything come to the shock, or is there something that I'm not seeing that that it kind of bottoms out on? I think like on a master or a Bigode wheel, the ends of the sliders, you know, it smacks either ends of that, and there's like at the bottom you see the rubber. Let me get it with the GoPro. There's that rubber O-ring, basically. It's kind of like a bump stop almost. And we don't have anything like that going on the top, which is where you would be smacking when you're compressing. And like I said, it's not smacking the top right there when it compresses. So I kind of want to know what that's about. Let's see. And so yeah, when I measured it, it's 135 millimeters in the longest travel position, and then the next one down is about 105, something like that, which both of those two positions is still more travel than a Lynx. And that is the question, right? Is this a Lynx with more suspension travel? Let's find out. I was mentioning I've got 270 psi in the shock, which they said 275 is going to be in the manual, so I should be okay. To run that, I am about, let's see, with all this gear on, my dry weight's 165-ish, so this is probably about 175-ish with all this gear on. And I think that our first test should just be on the dirt road that I drove in on. There is some washboard going on over there. The main question we're trying to answer with this ride today is the suspension gonna hold up? You know, am I breaking any more of the teeth? How does the pedals behave in the corners? Things like that. This is a Kenda, which is kind of like a CST. This thing's just eating up this washboard like nothing. It'd almost be worth it to use the GoPro for that super slow motion, but I think this will have to do. See how stiff those pedals stay. It might be a little too close. Let me stick the camera out a little more. And a bit of acceleration and some braking. All right, let's get out into the dirt. This tire is just gonna feel weird regardless of whatever I do. Yeah, I've got a pre-order in on this thing, so I'm pretty invested in it being good. It's a little dark through here, but let's see what we can do. Try to get some bonks going. So I calibrated this wheel this morning. It feels like it's not calibrated or something though. I calibrated by the pedals. I put my level on the pedals where it's flat and made sure everything was kosher. Got it zeroed out, made sure the wheel was balancing left to right as well. Any firmware that has this acceleration assist, even if it's not on, the pedals feel hella weird to me. Alright, so I just gave the linkage bolts a little check and my pads a little bit more of a tightening. Oh, it's a bummer this tire is what it is. Oh yeah, feels very good through that chunk. Alright, I put the stick away. Let's give it a little bit more juice. Yeah, plenty of pedal clearance to get through that little guy. Try some bonks, because the suspension is very plush, but sometimes with a very plush suspension you lose some of your like rigidity for bonks. The bonks don't feel so bad. Yeah, feels very familiar to a Lynx. How's it going?
There you go. Take some back.
The Apex definitely is just eating this up. Feels very good on the rocky terrain. Okay, so yeah, around that turn even had some really weird pedal behavior. I just is there like a tool that I can just like set my wheel on and said press calibrate and it's like gonna be perfect every single time? Because I swear I do my best with just eyeballing it or using levels, but the wheel seems to tell me it's not level or it's not calibrated. Alright, I hope the mountain biker is cleared. This will be a good little rock garden. Get some speed. Oh, no worries. Thank you, sir. So far, that bolt and that bolt, those are the ones you really got to watch out for. All the way up here stayed perfectly tight, and what you do, I don't know if I mentioned this before, it is in the instructions when you're doing it, but the threads need Loctite and then the shank that goes into like these holes here, they need anti-seize applied to them so they can spin more freely. Because what was happening is just like basically self-loosening during the rides, and then it would just, that screw was like all the way out, and then it put all the stress on the right side of the linkage and just busted all the teeth. All right, let's go get ready. I'm gonna take this new thing on the first run down overdrive. And we'll be careful.
Fun going down or up?
Oh, it's way more fun on the way down, yeah. It's feeling great. That suspension really is dreamy. We all just want the S22 with power. And you know, I'll be honest, after Fullerton Loop yesterday, I was a little afraid. And I still don't like the pedal firmware, but we've all seen firmware, you know, night and day changes in firmware. It's kind of what's ruining the Liperkim wheels, in my opinion. But it's saved Begode wheels for sure. This is feeling good. And I may not be a heavy rider, but I sure do generate a lot of force when I'm just running this thing into stuff. So we got 270 PSI on the shock, and here comes the jumps. The rebound is fully open, but it's working out. I felt great. Yeah, I felt a little weird resonate-y type thing. This tire's a little much to get used to, but we're doing it. The first time I ever had a wheel, the RS, I ran this tire before I knew better. Man, I don't even feel some of those rocks. And I jumped on somebody's wheel that had a 241 on it, and I was like, no, they're basically the same tire. And after like 20 feet, I was like, wow, this is a very different tire. And I've been running the 241 ever since. Very good rock garden coming up in just a second. Not yet. Let's get this thing back in front of us. A little jump here. You know, I got a aftermarket shock because I'm really picky, but this D&M is actually holding up really well. If the D&M can perform in this linkage the way that it is right now, then an upgraded shock, I'm sure, will do insanely well. I'm even gonna rip these. Get some brakes. I'll get this last little booter here. Boom. All right. That was a great run. I almost don't know if it's worth my effort to put the DVO shock on this one. Maybe just wait for my Apex to come in and throw it on there. That was a great run. Apex did a wonderful job. Let's check out the linkage here. Everything seems to be in order. Yeah, all the teeth are mated well. The screws have not backed out. It's working really well. The only thing that I'm losing a little bit of is my bonk ability. only because it's making the rocks feel so smooth that you almost don't feel them sometimes. So locking out the suspension or just having more aggressive suspension allows the bonks to happen more easily. But that was all in the fully open blue dial, 270 PSI. I think the bonkability would go up insanely just moving that dial to the mid position. I don't think I would want to ride down the whole trail in that mid position. I want to just always be using the most travel, right? So it's like I want to test that lower suspension position, but are we really buying the wheel and watching my channel for off-roading if you're going to be making the suspension travel less? I'll try it anyway, just for science. I think that will be a better test, a more desired test than just moving that switch. Okay, this entire time that I've been going uphill, my pedals have been all over the place. I'm gonna recalibrate the wheel when I get up. All right, well, I just recalibrated. I need to tilt my pedals back a little bit. I don't want to run the selfie stick right now. I just want to really feel the pedals out on this one. Oh, oh yeah, I've got the lower pedals right now. It's definitely more bonkable, but I'm actually gonna make it all the way up again. I don't think it would be as fun on the way down. After that little experience, I'd say just, you know, let it be a 130 millimeter travel wheel. That's cool that you can lower it for the track, but what if you just had, I don't know, maybe different linkage pieces? Because if you're gonna change a tire, you know, what if changing a linkage piece was as easy as changing the tire? You already kind of got to get there. Your street tire and your off-road tire usually do not overlap if you're pretty serious. It would definitely be something that you do at home on the bench, but just like a tire change, if you make it simple enough, it really wouldn't be that much of a problem. Man, I really hope that calibration helped me. I never had to do this stuff to 507. I hope I can just put 507 on this. I don't know what I was saying, but we're dropping it now. Alrighty. Another drop down overdrive. Oh yeah, it feels so good over the bumps. The bumps and the chunks. Ow, my friggin' selfie stick's in my backpack and it's kicking me in the head. The bottom outs feel pretty, it's like, I don't know if I'm even bottoming out or if it's just getting really, really, really compressed in the air chamber. But they feel kind of weird. Like you're getting a lot of travel, but when you, even though it's like supposed to be super progressive, it's, I don't know, feeling quite gnarly at the bottom of the stroke. But man, when it's up in the beginning of its stroke, it feels really good. The jumps feel amazing. All right, start to watch out for that weird pedal behavior. Yeah, that's how I like to do that one. Just fly over all of it. Oh, but then that bonk was so soft I didn't really get to that next rock on that second feature. Just have to learn a new style of riding. The bonking is definitely not as bonky, but you really are soaking up a lot. So yeah, that's really usually one of the weirder turns. That one we just did back there, and I don't know if I'm just babying it or what, but it didn't seem so terrible. For whatever reason, the way up, my pedals were acting super crazy. Oh man, I hate this tire. We'll definitely change the tire. and then try to work on that firmware, because yeah, I don't know, 507, I just never had these problems where I just needed to calibrate my wheel every ride. Yeah, that selfie stick just smacking me in the head is terrible. That was a pretty good little impact coming down that. We'll see where the it just like snaps when you go around those turns. It just like feels kind of good, like you're leaning into it, and then it just like snaps when you like apex the corner. It snaps your toes up. Oh yeah, through this gnarly little rock garden though. Amazing. Brakes into the corner good. Feels good. Let's see if it's still surviving. Then we'll have to go back up because I didn't seem to feel the weird. All right, we're still in. We're still in. I didn't seem to feel the weird pedal behavior on the way down as much as I did on the way up. I'm gonna get some good light on this thing. Now I can't tell if it's just me. We'll have to investigate further when we get back home. But I hope these things aren't kind of going out like that on us, because that's basically what's happening. A lot of all the force is going into the shock, which is going into these teeth, and if these teeth like warp off of the tracks, basically, you know what I mean, if that progressively gets worse, eventually it's gonna fail. Let's run it some more times. I don't really feel like playing around with it. Was definitely more bonkable in the lower suspension travel. I only moved it down one notch though, and I didn't like being down so low. I actually felt less stable down there than I was up high. I don't really care to mess with that. I like the full open, so I'm not gonna play around like all day with suspension settings and stuff like that. I can definitely say that I would probably just leave it in the tallest travel position with like lots of PSI in the shock. That seems to be feeling good. I have fully open rebound right now on the stock shock, 270 PSI. There's a million ways you could play around with the settings and dials and stuff like that. We're not gonna go too far into that. We're just gonna make it feel good to me. I kind of know what to expect from suspension. I just know that I need to basically max out whatever the shock can do, start from there, and then back off. We don't have two wheels, we only have the one, so that shock's doing a lot of work. I would like it maybe a touch more aggressive than this, so I'm definitely not going to start backing it off. Besides me just kind of not liking the firmware, but it is being a lot better now after I recalibrated it. Maybe the first recalibration I did this morning was a bad recalibration, I don't know. Definitely makes me excited for this next trip down the hill, because yeah, my pedals were really going nuts our last trip up the mountain. What we really got to test out is make sure this the teeth on this hardened linkage holds up to all of the rocky terrain and the bumps and the drops and the jumps that we're doing. I really hope it does, so that we can do more with it. Everything goes well today. We'll be taking it to the jump park and then maybe doing some more trail riding with a different shock in it. We'll do that tomorrow. Whoa. God, this tire. All right, we're gonna do a Ride Hermes run. This definitely isn't gonna be like a pushing it, trying to do crazy lap times kind of run, but it would be good to see what I can get on a new wheel with a selfie stick. We're gonna have Ride Hermes recording just to give us some sort of idea of how we're doing. But this is with a selfie stick, with a tire that I hate, on a new wheel. So keep all that in mind. I don't really know how to hold this tripod stick when I'm trying to ride. Whoa, that was crazy. I'm usually able to bonk over quite a bit of this stuff. I don't know if it's the linkage, or you know, just the suspension and general behavior on this wheel, or if it's me not gunning it fast enough, or I just gotta learn it. Sometimes with these slower linkages, all it really means is you gotta actually slow your body down and do everything in slow motion. But my body's used to like being fast and twitchy. The jumps have been absolutely great on this thing. We just gotta hope that linkage doesn't fall apart. So good. But to be completely honest, the linkage can be replaced, the firmware can be updated, but now we have a platform for 130 millimeter travel links essentially, and that's very exciting. It's very, very reminiscent of the S22 going over all those bumps. You got like all your small bump compliance back that you lost with the at least my links, the way I like it. I couldn't even do the 70 pounds. Should be crazy. Rattle my brain out. Oh, that tire feels so weird. But the firmware is actually doing pretty good now. I'm like crawling around that turn, but I think most of it's the selfie stick. Let's try to start doing a little more for that Ride Hermes time. Once I can trust the wheel a little more, I'll bonk into that harder. I don't want to get tripped up. But I am starting to feel good. The pedals are behaving quite nicely now. Yeah, there we go. Oh yeah. Stay low. Boom. That's good, dude. Real good. Just give me that aftermarket linkage. Always locked at the full travel. Let's get rid of these teeth. It will be good, man. Vince Ramirez can maybe make us a linkage. Whoo! But I mean, I'm giving it all I got. Going down one of the trails I've ridden, the trail that I've ridden more than any other trail, without a doubt. And I'm smashing it. I'm trying to do good. Let's see how good we did, and Does this thing look any more tweaked? I don't really think so. What I mean, you can't see because it was in the shadow, but what I'm trying to look for is okay, there we go. There's those teeth right there. It's kind of, I don't know, it sometimes looks like there's more of this bottom one exposed, like there's a lip on it, you know? So I'm just trying to make sure that lip isn't getting like more pronounced. I've still got my bolts in. Well, I'm getting a little tired. I'm a little wiped out. Just running laps on one of the hardest trails that we've got around. We're going through all the bumps, hitting them rocks hard, dropping down all the drops, jumping all the trail jumps. Honestly, I think the rest of my testing that I do with this wheel, I will just leave the stock shock in. I've got my pre-order in on this wheel. If it survives all my testing and that linkage isn't doing anything funky, definitely not canceling the pre-order. Definitely stay tuned. I've got a 134 volt X-Way coming my way, courtesy of EUC Ungerground. Liam Ung over there. Thank you very much. Thank you, Begode, for all you do for the racing, off-road racing, street racing, Begode backs racing 100%. Thank you, Nosfet. Thank you, Ewheels, for today's demo. And I'm very impressed with it. I think the pedals behaved just fine after I recalibrated the wheel. The strange thing is I calibrated this morning in hopes to give myself the best chance of success. My first ride was kind of fine, and then when I went up the hill the second time, everything felt so different. And yeah, so I had to recalibrate again at the top. I've never had that issue before, and I've only ever ran like 1 or 3 or whatever my links came with, and then 507. I tried 511, hated it, went back. Tried 512, hated it, went back to 507. Maybe it's just something in the firmware is different and you got to calibrate your wheel a lot. But yeah, if it starts doing that, bowing around, everyone's told me to do it, and sorry if I told you no, that's not it. Going back to 507 always just solved it for me, so I thought that was the answer. It's a bummer that you got to calibrate it like all the time, like just the one calibration doesn't really stay. And yeah, I just never experienced that with the other firmwares. And it seems like very picky. If you're off just a little bit with your calibration, you're in for a wild ride. All that stuff aside, the wheel did absolutely phenomenal out here so far today. I've got the wheel. Well, by the time you see this, I probably won't have the wheel anymore, but I'm gonna do more testing tomorrow at the jump park, so I'll see you there.